4 years ago, my ex-husband and I got separated due to his infidelity. He had an affair and fathered a young girl named Juniper with the other woman. However, Juniper's mother died when she was still a newborn. Her mom was raised in the system, therefore her only family members are my ex-husband and his family. Our 4 children are Joshua, a 20-year-old man, Cassidy, a teenage girl, Nate, a tween boy, and Jacob, a pre-tween boy. Joshua cut him off when we got divorced, and Cassidy did the same not long after. They have never met Juniper and never longer go see him. Because I kept his kids away, he has always held me responsible for that. He may be a terrible boyfriend and spouse, but I will give him credit for being a fantastic father. Nate and Jacob are still close with his infant, and still visit him. When she was younger, I made an attempt to take the 3 of them out, but it didn't work out for me. Even though I know she's innocent, I can't help but associate her with my ex's deceit. I now try to avoid interacting too much with Nate and Jacob when I pick them up. I greet her with a hello if she says hello, and return the wave if she does. I've told her things like, "No, Juniper, I'm not your mom. Call me by my name, I'm fine with that." The last time, she ran at me, calling me Mama, and started to cry when I didn't pick her up and take her with me. Now every time I pick them up she starts to whisper, "Mama, Mama." Let me tell you something, although I don't think my ex is telling her to call me Mom, Nate and Jacob really do. Jacob. I suppose she's adopting his behavior because he runs towards me and says, "Mom, Mom," before giving me a hug. Yesterday, while my son was with my ex's family, Juniper ran at me once more. My ex asked for a second, to which I replied, "Yes," after I said hello. He informed me that Juniper feels confused and wounded when he sees me scooping up the boys and showing them love and care. Being a newborn, she is unable to comprehend what is going on. He wanted to know whether I could just bring her along for a few days, the way I do with the boys, and then eventually allow her to call me Mom. "No," I replied. "I'm terrible for Juniper, but our sons are the only reason I'm maintaining a relationship with both of them. I won't be playing mommy to her." He labeled me callous and brought up how she sobs when I leave her behind. However, I told him that he should handle that and that it wasn't my problem. Later he shared a video of Juniper sobbing outside the door along with the message, "I hope you're happy." So, am I the fool here? Sure, I understand that it's not her fault, but it's also not mine. Too bad you can't get a second divorce from him. This moron is attempting to use emotional blackmail to get someone else to agree to pay for his affair baby's daycare. Obtain a restraining order, LOL, or modify the custody arrangement such that the child must be handed off to a third party at a neutral site. No, the OP is not the fool. I believe I have seen the balls of your ex outside of a Target. I really apologize for this baby's pain. She's at the age where she's probably mimicking her older brothers in an attempt to make sense of her small environment. Although your ex is a piece of work, I applaud you for gently shutting her down. He cannot beg for your help, nor can he beg for you to take this child off of his hands. He had a loving parenting partner, but when he cheated on you, he threw it all away. Just that. He must explain to Juniper who her mother is and that her brothers have a different mother. Although Juniper is innocent, OP is not required to raise her. She is neither her mother nor stepmother. That the ex is attempting to guilt-trip her by showing her a video of Juniper sobbing is unbelievable. Such deceptive actions. He made a mistake by having an affair, which produced a child. Since Juniper's mother passed away, he needs to take care of Juniper and not make his ex-wife act as her mother. At present, the message is just, "Make her happy, she's just a little girl." However, once OP fulfills that request, the message will shift to, "She sees you as her mom, she keeps bringing up that special time you had together, how can you abandon her now after that?" And that's probably the strategy, too. Given that he had his daughter sobbing on camera, it's likely that he injured her feelings by saying something inappropriate for her age, and did it because he believed it would benefit him. I wonder whether he understands that if OP was more vile and spiteful, this would be considered damaging evidence against him in the event that a new custody plan was ever discussed in court. This might be used by Opie as evidence of emotional abuse and manipulation, along with her allegation that she feels uncomfortable with this type of behavior around her sons. A judge would punish a parent who engaged in such behavior severely. My wife and I have been married for 4 years because of this, and she is currently 26 weeks pregnant. She has recently taken to stealing food from my plate every time we dine out. The truth is, I don't mind sharing food with others at all. I object to people touching my plate with their hands, forks, or spoons. I have the impression that I'm in a competition and must eat quickly to avoid being hungry. She thinks it's not a big thing and that spouses should always share food, even after I've told her how I feel. We had dinner out today. She ordered something different for herself, so when I asked whether she wanted me to purchase the same item for her, she responded no. She sampled some of my food when it was delivered to see how it tasted. She began grabbing food off my plate after declaring it was excellent. She declined my offer to share my dinner with her, stating that she was only interested in a small portion. To be honest, she didn't finish much of my dinner. Instead, she kept grabbing food from my plate as I was eating. I once begged the server for an empty dish because I was getting impatient. In an attempt to get her to stop stealing food from my plate, I removed half of my meal and placed it on the spare plate before giving it to her. She left the restaurant after becoming very irate. She said that I made her feel like a glutton by providing her a separate dish when we arrived home. She has stopped talking to me. Am I the foolish one? Edit. Part of the reason I became irritated was that I had ordered chicken fried rice, and she was selecting only the chicken and left the rice for me. Not the fool. This is coming from a person who experienced food cravings throughout back-to-back pregnancies that made her want to kill everyone in her direct line of sight. You established your limits and seemed to be incredibly considerate of her emotions even as you upheld them. Giving her the benefit of the doubt, I would hope that she was only irritable during her pregnancy and that she would later apologize. However, based on your writing, it appears that you managed it quite skillfully. Just the pieces of chicken on his fried rice were making him pregnant angrier? Not in my opinion. She was just being a brat. After all, she had her own plate of food. You established your limits, and one of them was not to share, so don't back down from this. Although I am aware of her pregnancy, it does not mean you have to be a doormat. You seem to have communicated effectively enough, so keep it up. Don't apologize for anything. And don't hesitate to enforce your quite reasonable boundaries. That is a really bothersome habit and a lack of common courtesy. While offering someone a taste of your food is acceptable, simply eating off someone else's plate is considered impolite. Regardless of your marital status, you still have to maintain decorum and respect boundaries. Regardless of a marriage, nobody ought to take food off your plate without your consent. It's just impolite. My spouse and I are parents to a young adolescent girl. She has performed in various plays both inside and outside of her school, and she plays the piano. The trouble is, my husband always extends an invitation to his mother to attend our daughter's performances. Not that he shouldn't, but on numerous occasions Mom would set my daughter down and point out her mistakes and areas for improvement. Hey, this isn't even her area of expertise. This is a recurring event. My daughter caught up on these disparaging remarks, which led to a decline in her self-esteem and consequently in her performance. I then informed my husband that his mother must either quit criticizing our daughter or cease visiting. According to him, his mother is the grandma and ought to be involved in endorsing these activities. Last Wednesday, our daughter had a performance. I suggested to my spouse that his mother could miss this event, but he replied that it was too late since he had already emailed her the link containing the event's date and location. Thus, I remained silent on my side. About 20 minutes later, his mother came over, sat beside him, and continued to hug and murmur in his ear. I simply rolled my eyes a lot. My daughter was shocked when the play ended, and we finally got to see our trembling, anxious daughter. My mother-in-law then turned to face her and remarked, "Let me just say that today's performance was disappointing." My kid let out a few sobs before running off. Then, with a casual tone, mother-in-law added, "Oh, I have to go now. I have an appointment with the salon for Chloe's birthday party. I became enraged. I informed her that she had offended my daughter and that what she had said to her was unacceptable. She departed after saying something like, "Just telling it how it is." After we got home, I snapped at my husband, telling him it wasn't right that his mom was always disparaging our daughter. He said, "What his mom is doing is just constructive criticism. I'm being overly dramatic." I advised him to cease extending invitations to our daughter's performances. He told me that I was being absurd and that I shouldn't have expected his mother to be so cut off from her granddaughter's life. After our heated disagreement, my daughter has lost interest in playing. In his words, I was completely out of line and shouldn't have used our daughter as leverage in my argument with his mother. He also described me as violent and domineering. Am I the foolish one? Edit. Since my husband and mother-in-law want my daughter to become a doctor, they feel that my daughter is wasting time and becoming distracted by playing the piano, which is uncomfortable. I'll address my daughter's desire to become a doctor at a later date. My mother-in-law believes that because I signed my kid up for piano lessons, I'm squandering my husband's money. Divorcing him and telling him to wed his mother is a simple fix. Not the fool, and my heart is breaking for your daughter. I would have lost it on her, but you're so much kinder than I would have been. For your husband to choose his mother's side above that of his own daughter is a grave mistake. Revolting. Yes, Mama's boy really does need to grow up. Give up inviting your spouse as well, as he isn't much better. Your daughter is better off not knowing when the show is. They are acting quite strangely. It is a grown-up lady bullying and being disrespectful to a child. Please take steps to safeguard your daughter and her mental health. It is requested that constructive criticism be given, along with suggestions for improvement. No, this isn't it. The grandma must mature, and your husband must develop a backbone to shield his daughter from his mother's persistent bullying. If you started criticizing every action they made, constructive criticism is probably not something they would appreciate. Everyone, with the exception of the daughter, is a fool. What prevented you from telling your mother-in-law to quit criticizing your daughter? You are her mother, and after your mother-in-law made fun of her, you didn't encourage her to do well at work. Really, get a backbone and defend your child. Mother-in-law would not bully my child even if I didn't talk to her. My nephew, who is 26 years old, is pre-teenage and has a propensity for stealing. His habit of leaving stores with stuff in his pockets led to his brother and sister-in-law getting into difficulty on a few occasions. Naturally. Though, given that he is a child, they typically just claim that he forgot he had it. My brothers told me that they have occasionally been required to speak with the principal even at school. They don't appear to have taken any action to stop it. My brother lost his job, so they had no choice but to move in with me because they couldn't pay their rent and other expenses. They can move out, and in the interim, he is working for Uber while looking for work. Family is family, even though I didn't want to because of my nephew in particular. I finally purchased an engagement ring for my fiancée, to whom I intended to pop the question a month ago. I'm not sure now, though. I saved for this 4K ring for more than a year. It's been concealed beneath one of my drawers in my room. I urged my brother to stop his child after I discovered him snooping around in my room, and I also placed an inexpensive spy camera in my room just in case. Then I discovered last week that it was not in its box. Upon examining the camera, I discovered that he had returned there while I wasn't home. He has received yelling from my brother and his wife. It's not in the guest room where he claims to have left it, by the TV. They searched through all they had in his as well. He claimed not to have it, but I know that's a lie because he made the same claim about taking one of my watches and then discovering it the next day. My brother claims they are unable to locate the ring, so I urged him to either find the ring or reimburse me for the $4,000. If not, they will be unable to remain here. My brother became really irate. He informed me that while I understand how difficult their current circumstances are, I couldn't help but be upset that his child, whom we are unable to rear, had taken something very valuable from me that had cost a great deal of money and effort. If they couldn't discover the ring in a week, they had to leave my residence. My brother keeps pleading with me to let them return even though they are forced to stay at a low motel and their nightly expenses are directly depleting their money. He won't stop accusing me of being callous for allowing anything like this to get in the way of supporting them during a trying time. Furthermore, my nephew never stops apologizing. It's just difficult to want them around at the moment. It's difficult for me to care about their predicament because I don't even know what to do about the ring, and it irritates me every time I think about it. Does that mean I'm a fool now? They sold the ring, Ops. I apologize. Make a report to the police. The evidence is captured on video, so even if it is pilfered, the authorities can locate it and return it to you. See a few pawn shops for yourself. Your brother was aware that his son's theft was an issue because he had already been caught once snooping around in your room. As tragic as it may be, your brother's homelessness stems directly from his inability to discipline his own son. They were aware of the child's propensity for stealing, so it was only a matter of time until he pilfered something pricey or significant. No matter how much your nephew apologizes, you will still lose $4,000, and there is no assurance that letting him stay in your house will prevent him from stealing in the future. Not the fool. And why didn't they use their savings to pay off their debt from their prior house if they had enough for a cheap motel? They sold off your engagement ring, which has given them a lot more money. To speak with your brother, call the police, give them the video footage, and let them know where he is staying. Perhaps if the police show up and knock on your motel room door, the child will be enough alarmed to be truthful. Don't be the moron. Since your brother discovered the ring after his son took it and pawned it, I have a suspicion that he is well aware of what transpired to it. According to my theory, the parents are instilling this in the child despite the likelihood that the child won't get into any major problems. Adversity often leads individuals to act foolishly, and it is really foolish to pawn your brother's $4,000 ring. I'm a 23-year-old woman with social anxiety, hence I perform terribly in social settings. Like, if I have to be around more than 25 people, I'm going to cry. My brother, 26, recently tied the knot with a 28-year-old woman who has a 4-year-old daughter. He suggested that I bring my stuffed animal from when I was a baby, even though he knows all too well that I struggle with social anxiety, and that there was a strong chance I wouldn't be able to go. A little blue bear, that is. I usually say no, but my brother and I are the only family members left. He replied yes, when I questioned whether he was certain. It didn't matter if I needed a stuffed animal to be there. He wanted me there. It was a wonderful ceremony. It was the welcome. I didn't want to get my stuffed animal dirty in the bathroom, so I went to the restroom and asked my sister-in-law to watch him. When I returned, my sister-in-law's daughter was playing with and caressing my plush animal. I approached my sister-in-law and requested to have my stuffed animal returned. No, she replied. Her daughter declared that she was a grown woman and asked to play with it. I explained that I didn't imply her child had enough to do or that her daughter could play with it. She got some stuffed animals of her own, a tablet, and coloring books. Once more, she refused and took her daughter somewhere else. I turned to face my brother and requested him to retrieve it. He was enraged. He confronted my sister-in-law in front of everyone, took back my stuffed animal, much to the dismay of my sister-in-law's daughter, and threatened to leave her if she did anything similar again. Since I'm an adult, my sister-in-law's family is all on her side, while my brother is on mine. I just asked for it back politely, not wanting him to create a scene. Am I the foolish one? I'll apologize if I am. Not the fool. You must have the bear if you require it. You can ignore your sister-in-law, that's what it is. It sounds like she brought this up earlier, and your brother believed he had already shut it down, based on his quick and forceful response. Let her mind her own business and deal with her own issues. Furthermore, you did not do anything improper. This brother is acting foolishly. Rather than waiting and ultimately ending up in divorce court, he ought to go immediately while they still have time to obtain an annulment. He had a front row seat as his new bride removed her mask. After pretending to be good for a few months, she will be herself again, realizing that her husband is a fool and that she and her child will always be supported even if he attempts to leave.